In 2015, Yamaha engineers unleashed a ticking time bomb disguised as a superbike. The 998cc crossplane R1 wasn't just fast, it was a mechanical predator. An engine so brutally advanced that riders whispered it was designed to eat itself alive. But was it banned for being too good, or did Yamaha bury it to hide a trail of shattered crankshafts and broken trust? Today, we expose the conspiracy that nearly killed a legend, the racing teams who risked everything to reveal the truth, and the recall that rocked the motorcycle world. In the mid-2010s, the superbike world was changing fast. Horsepower wars dominated headlines. Manufacturers promised MotoGP technology for the street. It was an era of bold claims and even bolder engineering, especially in Japan. Deep within Yamaha's secret development facility in Iwata, a new beast was being born. One that would set the stage for the most controversial superbike scandal of the modern era. The genius behind the beast was Hideki Fujiwara and his engineering team. They weren't just building another superbike, they were crafting a revolution. The 2015 R1's crossplane crankshaft was stolen directly from Yamaha's championship-winning MotoGP bikes, technology that cost millions to develop, technology that had never been unleashed on the public. Unlike Honda's screaming inline-4 or Kawasaki's brutal ZX-10R, Fujiwara's crossplane used an uneven firing order. It sounded like a V-twin having an argument with itself. It was engineering brilliance wrapped in carbon fiber and bad intentions. Mechanics named it the computer on wheels. It delivered mind-bending electronics and MotoGP-derived power, but maintaining it felt like defusing a bomb with a blindfold on. The crossplane's complexity was its fatal flaw. Precision assembly, specific bleeding procedures, exact tolerances. One mistake and the engine would eat itself from the inside out. But when it worked, when it worked. Hayden Gillim, AMA Superbike champion, said the crossplane R1 didn't just win races, it scared the hell out of everything with four wheels. You could hear that irregular firing order screaming like a banshee 2 corners away. The crossplane crank was like a bridge designed by an artist, not an engineer. Gorgeous under static load, but one resonant vibration could shake it apart. At a private test in Spain, Yamaha's factory rider narrowly avoided catastrophe when its R1's crank snapped at 180 miles per hour. The team hushed it up, but mechanics leaked photos of the debris field. Twisted metal shrapnel was scattered over 200 meters of straightaway. The rider walked away shaken but alive. Yamaha classified it as a testing anomaly and ordered the evidence destroyed, but word leaked. And suddenly, every professional rider was asking the same question. If it happened once at 180 miles per hour, when would it happen again? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, but first, Yamaha had a marketing campaign to launch. Yamaha's marketing department went nuclear. They called it the closest thing to a MotoGP bike you can buy. Magazine covers screamed about revolution. Dealers took deposits faster than they could count cash. The R1 wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a promise of racing immortality wrapped in street-legal bodywork. The numbers backed up the hype. 200 horsepower, 6-axis IMU, lean sensitive traction control, a price tag that made grown men weep. The limited edition R1M pushed past $22,000 with all-in electric suspension and carbon fiber everywhere. Racing teams scrambled to get their hands on the new weapon. World Superbike champions lined up for factory rides. The motorcycle press declared it the bike of the decade before anyone had ridden it properly. "We couldn't keep them in stock," said one dealer. People were trading in perfectly good bikes just to get on the waiting list. The hype was unreal. But behind closed doors, Yamaha engineers were nervous. The crossplane was complex. Assembly required precision that many dealers weren't trained for. Oil bleeding procedures that, if done wrong, could starve critical bearings. Tolerances so tight that one mistake could turn a $20,000 superbike into a very expensive paperweight. A leaked Yamaha internal memo from early 2015 read, "Assembly procedures critical for long-term reliability. Recommend extended dealer training before delivery." Well, that training never happened. Yamaha was rushing to beat competitors to market, and precision took a back seat to production numbers. What they unleashed wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a ticking time bomb with a throttle. And it didn't last long for that bomb to start going off. The first signs of trouble appeared within months, but they weren't isolated incidents. They were systematic executions. Riders at Laguna Seca described the sound, a deafening crack like a gunshot. Then silence as their $20,000 superbike bled oil onto the tarmac. Track day heroes found themselves staring at engine cases with holes big enough to put your fist through. Racing teams discovered cranks snapped in half like cheap plastic toys. The patterns were always the same. The bridge collapsed, just like critics warned. Here's how the crossplane killed itself. Aggressive downshift at 12,000 RPM forces the rear wheel to over-rev the engine. Resonant vibration hits the critical frequency, and stress concentrates at the weakest point. The crankshaft snaps like an overloaded bridge, sending shrapnel through everything else. Valves hit pistons, the balance shaft goes haywire, and total engine destruction follows. Rider stranded, wallet emptied, trust shattered. Paul from PAL Performance Workshop became the unofficial coroner of dead R1s. His teardown videos turned him into a folk hero among devastated owners. "You can pretty much put your fist through this hole," Paul demonstrated during one infamous video. He was showing an engine case that looked like it had been hit by artillery. This is what happens when precision engineering meets corner-cutting assembly. The engine didn't just fail, it committed suicide. But the real smoking gun was the oil starvation. Dealers weren't following bleeding procedures. Engines came back from warranty repairs with air bubbles in critical oil galleries. Riders thought they were getting their bike fixed. Instead, they were getting time bombs with fresh paint. But when the evidence became undeniable, how could Yamaha respond? As evidence mounted, Yamaha's response was swift and unpredictable. Deny everything, blame everyone else. Official statements claimed engine failures were due to rider abuse and improper maintenance. They implied that track day riders were over-revving engines and racing teams were pushing bikes beyond design limits. The message was clear. If your engine exploded, it was your fault. This might have worked for a few isolated cases, but when professional racing teams with decades of experience started reporting identical failures on meticulously maintained machines, the narrative cracked like a bad crankshaft. "We had oil analysis reports showing metal contamination in engines with 500 miles, said one world superbike mechanic. Temperature logs revealing cooling problems immediately after dealer service. Data proving failures within normal operating parameters. Yamaha looked at our evidence and still blamed aggressive riding. The company's technical representatives visited failing customers like undertakers measuring coffins. They examined destroyed engines and consistently concluded the damage was external factors. Internal documents later revealed Yamaha was cataloging systematic problems while publicly maintaining the fiction that riders were to blame." Ben Spies, former world superbike champion, broke ranks in an interview that sent shockwaves through Yamaha headquarters. "I've ridden everything from 500cc two-strokes to MotoGP bikes. When your crankshaft snaps under normal downshifting, that's not rider error, that's corporate negligence." Yamaha, of course, denied these claims, but the racing community wasn't going to take this lying down. By 2016, the racing community had seen enough blood on the tarmac. Professional teams, armed with data loggers, oil analysis reports and detailed failure documentation, declared war on Yamaha's denial machine. The British Superbike Championship erupted first. It started at Silverstone during round 3 when two factory-backed R1s grenaded their engines on the same day, one during practice, another during the race itself. The sight of oil-soaked tarmac and million-dollar racing programs reduced to scrap metal was the final straw. 3 separate Yamaha teams did something unprecedented. They pulled their technical data and presented unified evidence to series officials. What they revealed was devastating. The data painted a picture of systematic engineering failure that Yamaha could no longer deny. Oil pressure logs showed critical drops during normal downshifting sequences. Temperature spikes appeared immediately after engines came back from Yamaha warranty work. Vibration analysis revealed crankshaft resonance frequencies that matched failure points exactly. Most damaging was the metallurgy report commissioned by the teams themselves. Independent lab analysis of failed components showed stress patterns that could only result from systematic design flaws, not rider abuse. The cranks were failing at predictable stress concentrations that any competent engineer should have caught during development. When we showed Yamaha the evidence, they didn't send engineers to discuss solutions, McKenzie continued. They sent lawyers to threaten lawsuits if we went public. That's when we knew this wasn't about engineering anymore. It was about corporate survival. World Superbike teams escalated by threatening manufacturer boycotts. The Pata Yamaha team publicly considered switching to Kawasaki mid-season. GRT Yamaha announced that they were evaluating options for the following year. The potential loss of factory racing support, worth tens of millions in marketing value, finally penetrated Yamaha's corporate armor. But the racing teams weren't done. They began coordinating with independent mechanics and track day organizations worldwide. What started as isolated complaints became a coordinated resistance movement. Social media became a battlefield. Professional mechanics like Paul from PAL Performance Workshop posted forensic teardown videos that went viral. Forums exploded with documented cases from 6 continents. The hashtag Yamaha recall trended globally as owners shared photos of destroyed engines and five-figure repair bills. YouTube channels dedicated to R1 failures popped up overnight. Mechanics in Germany, Australia, and the US began sharing identical failure patterns. Track day organizations started warning riders about R1 reliability. Insurance companies quietly began flagging 2015 R1s as high-risk motorcycles. The most damaging revelation came from former Yamaha factory technicians who broke their NDAs and career prospects to speak truth to power. We called it the 500-hour time bomb during development. Management said, most street riders won't hit that. Racing teams did that in the first month. One whistleblower who worked in Yamaha's warranty department revealed the scope of the cover-up. We had a database tracking identical failures worldwide, over 800 documented cases by late 2016. Management told us to classify them as customer abuse regardless of evidence. We were literally rewriting engineering reports to protect the company. The rebellion had become a revolution, and Yamaha was losing. With mounting pressure from every direction, something had to give. By early 2017, Yamaha's position was like a rider heading into a turn too hot with no brakes. Disaster was inevitable. The tipping point came when a consortium of racing teams threatened to release their technical findings publicly unless Yamaha acted. The evidence was overwhelming: systematic design flaws, inadequate assembly procedures, and a corporate cover-up that reached the highest levels of management. Yamaha's legal department reportedly calculated potential liability at over $2 billion in lawsuits, regulatory fines, and criminal negligence charges. The company's hand was forced. What followed was unprecedented in motorcycle history. Yamaha issued a global recall for every single 2015 YZF R1 and R1M ever produced. Tens of thousands of motorcycles worth over $500 million retail. The recall notice was masterfully crafted corporate doublespeak. Yamaha described it as a voluntary safety enhancement to address potential gearbox irregularities. No mention of exploding engines, no mention of systematic failures, no mention of the corporate denial campaign that had burned bridges worldwide. But the scope of the actual work revealed the truth. Owners didn't get repairs. They got completely new motorcycles from the crankcase up. New cranks, new rods, new pistons, new oiling systems, completely revised assembly procedures, everything. They basically admitted the entire 2015 engine design was flawed without saying it, said one industry analyst. You don't replace every major component as a precaution. You do it because the original was fundamentally broken. The recall was executed with military precision. This suggested Yamaha had been planning for this disaster longer than they admitted. Replacement parts appeared overnight. Dealers had comprehensive technical bulletins that seemed far too detailed for hasty development. But even with the recall underway, the controversy was far from over. Even during the recall, Yamaha maintained its wall of corporate silence. No admission of fault, no apology to customers, no explanation of what had actually been wrong with the original design. This infuriated the racing community that had fought to expose the truth. We proved what was broken, forced them to fix it, saved lives and careers, said Paul from PAL Performance Workshop. But they never admitted fault, never apologized, and never explained what they actually changed. The real smoking gun came from owners who got their bikes back. The difference was night and day. Smoother power delivery, rock-solid reliability, normal oil pressure under all conditions. It proved just how fundamentally flawed the original engines had been. My bike after the recall was like riding a completely different machine, said one track day regular. More reliable, better oil pressure, no weird temperature spikes. It made me realize how dangerous the original really was. The recalls fixed the immediate problem, but they raised an even bigger question. What was Yamaha hiding about their current engines? Today, the 2015 R1 recall remains radioactive at Yamaha Motor Corporation. Official company histories skip over it entirely. Current executives refuse interviews about the technical details or corporate decisions that created the disaster. But the deeper you dig, the more disturbing the modern picture becomes. Here's where the story gets really interesting. Industry insiders believe current Yamaha engines still use refined crossplane technology, carefully hidden within controversial designs. The irregular firing patterns that cause so much carnage may have evolved into sophisticated engine management systems that deliver crossplane benefits without crossplane risks. A former Yamaha engineer who worked on current models broke his silence under the condition of anonymity. The crossplane concept wasn't fundamentally flawed, it was poorly executed and rushed to market. We learned from those mistakes. Today's engines use crossplane principles, but done right. The technology lives on, hidden in plain sight. Modern R1s still sound different from their competitors. They still deliver power in that distinctive, almost V-twin-like manner. They still use complex oiling systems that require precise maintenance, though dealer training improved dramatically after the scandal. But there are subtler signs that the crossplane legacy lives on. Current Yamaha ECU programming includes firing order algorithms that didn't exist before 2015. Service manuals reference irregular combustion timing protocols. Most tellingly, Yamaha's latest patents describe uneven firing interval management systems, crossplane technology by another name. Some motorcycle journalists who test current R1s report an uncanny familiarity in the power delivery. "It feels like the 2015 bike, but civilized," said one tester who requested anonymity. "Same irregular heartbeat, same V-twin-like grunt, but reliable. They didn't abandon crossplane, they perfected it." The conspiracy goes deeper. Sources within Yamaha's engineering department reveal that the entire R1 development program since 2017 has been built around lessons learned from the 2015 disaster. Every component is tested to cross-plane failure scenarios. Every assembly procedure is validated against 2015 failure modes. What if Yamaha had owned the defect in 2015? Insiders say a simple crankshaft redesign would have cost $12 million. Instead, lawsuits and recalls topped $500 million. But here's the twist. The massive cost of the recall may have been worth it to Yamaha in the long term. The recall taught us more about engine failure modes than a decade of normal development, admitted one anonymous engineer. "We essentially got the entire motorcycle community to beta test our technology for free, then used that data to build unbreakable engines. It was expensive education, but we're light years ahead of competitors now." Some conspiracy theorists suggest other manufacturers experienced similar problems but managed them more quietly. Honda allegedly redesigned their CBR 1000 RR crankshaft in 2016 without fanfare. Kawasaki quietly strengthened their ZX-10R oil system around the same time. The difference was that Yamaha's aggressive denial strategy backfired spectacularly, turning routine warranty work into an international scandal. But there is a darker implication. If Yamaha learned so much from systematic failure analysis, are they now deliberately pushing engineering boundaries closer to their failure points? Confident in their ability to predict and prevent catastrophic breakdowns? Are we riding bikes designed to operate at the very edge of mechanical survivability? Recent patents filed by Yamaha describe predictive failure algorithms and preemptive component replacement protocols. The company appears to be developing motorcycles that monitor their own health and predict component failures before they happen. It's either brilliant engineering or a tactic admission that they're still building machines on the edge of disaster. The most chilling possibility is that the 2015 R1 wasn't a failure at all. It was a field test. Yamaha may have deliberately released marginally reliable technology to gather real-world failure data, then use that information to build the next generation of engines. If true, thousands of owners weren't customers. They were unwitting test subjects in a massive engineering experiment. Which brings us to the questions that still need answers. The most persistent rumor is that Yamaha's entire corporate culture changed after the recall. Former employees report that engineering decisions now require extensive real-world testing, dealer feedback, customer validation before approval. The days of rushing revolutionary technology to market may be over, but that raises darker questions. Are we riding bikes that could be better, faster, and more advanced, but aren't because manufacturers learned the wrong lessons from Yamaha's disaster? Has the 2015 R1 scandal made the entire industry more conservative, more afraid of innovation? And what about accountability? Despite systematic deception, corporate cover-ups, and endangered riders, Yamaha's reputation largely survived. The R1 remains coveted. The recall is mostly forgotten. The company continues marketing itself as an innovation leader. Did the system work? Or did corporate PR simply outlast public memory? To understand what really happened, we need to look at the bigger picture. The story of the 2015 Yamaha R1 isn't just about mechanical failure, it's about corporate character when everything goes wrong. The motorcycle represented genuine innovation that could have revolutionized superbike performance. The crossplane concept was sound, the electronic systems were groundbreaking, the potential was extraordinary. But rushing revolutionary technology to market without adequate testing, then denying obvious problems while blaming customers, turned engineering brilliance into corporate betrayal. The real victims weren't just engines, they were trust itself. Track day enthusiasts found themselves stranded with destroyed bikes and ruined weekends. Professional racers lost championships to mechanical failures that shouldn't exist. Everyone who loved the sport watched as one of motorcycling's most respected brands chose corporate face-saving over rider safety. The 2015 R1 engine was deadly, not just because it self-destructed. It was deadly because it revealed how far a manufacturer would go to avoid responsibility. In sport where trust between rider and machine can mean the difference between glory and the morgue, Yamaha's denial campaign proved more dangerous than any engineering flaw. So what does this mean for riders today? Today, the Crossplane R1 is a ghost in Yamaha's machine. The recall fixed the bikes, but not the betrayal. The technology lives on in a refined form, but the trust died with the first exploded crankshaft. So next time you hear a manufacturer claim their latest creation is the most advanced ever built, remember the 2015 R1. Ask whether revolutionary technology is worth systematic failure. Ask whether corporate accountability matters more than marketing hype. Because the choice isn't just between innovation and reliability, it's between truth and profit. And once that line is crossed, once customer safety takes a backseat to corporate pride, the real engine of trust may never restart. The legend of the Crossplane R1 lives on, not just in the distinctive sound of modern Yamaha engines, but in the warning it whispers from history. Advanced technology is only as good as the character of the company that builds it. Listen closely to that uneven growl next time you hear it on the track. That's not just an engine note. It's a reminder that even the most sophisticated engineering is worthless without the honesty to admit when it goes wrong. The truth is out there. It's powered by shattered trust, corporate cover-ups, and the relentless pursuit of speed over safety. This was the shocking truth behind Yamaha's deadly 998cc R1 engine, a story that should have changed everything, but instead changed just enough to let the guilty escape justice. Remember, in the world of high-performance motorcycles, the most dangerous failure isn't mechanical, it's moral, and that engine never gets recalled. What do you think? Did Yamaha deliberately use customers as test subjects? Are modern superbikes hiding similar secrets? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more stories about motorcycle controversies the manufacturers don't want you to know, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next.